Well, looks like the video did really great. And what is a good way to follow up on a well-performing video? Making a lower quality part 2 to that video. Well, technically this isn't really a part 2, but more of an additional video talking about some of the things I missed, like heavily suggested game soundtracks or the tracks from that one Winter Jones episode, which I didn't touch upon that much in the video. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Before we get into the video itself, I'd just like to say thank you very much for the support. Seriously, I did not expect my video to be gaining this much attention in such a short amount of time, and of course, we have reached the first of many milestones, 8,000 subscribers. So again, thank you to all of you. Right, since I want to keep this video brief, let's just go ahead with a lightning round of indie game soundtracks that Zacko couldn't talk about due to time constraints and the lack of motivation to edit more sections. One heavily suggested indie game soundtrack from the last video was Ultrakill. Ultrakill is an FPS game that takes place in a universe where humanity is extinct, blood is fuel, and hell is full. Yes, those are the words you see pop up when you first boot up the game. God disappeared and so heaven is controlled by the Council. You take control of V1, a robot that requires blood to fuel itself. After humanity's extinction, you then go to the different layers of hell to commit mass homicide just for the sake of it. So, a ton of people suggested that I take a listen to the soundtrack and review it, and so I did. When we first start the game, we are first greeted with a tutorial before a droning sound can be heard. We then see a gun in the middle of the room, and once you grab it, enemies appear, and the droning sound turns into a heavy metal riff with it having elements of breakcore in it, most recognizable due to the use of the Amen break. Tracks from the game are mostly made up of these same elements, but then you can take a break from the breakcore, see what I did there, and reach the limbo section where a soft, relaxing piano-led track plays, which is a direct contrast to the tracks before it. And as soon as enemies start to appear again, the piano is then accompanied by the Amen break once again, becoming more distorted as the track progresses. Later in the game, when you, V1, have a fight with your newer counterpart, V2, the track Versus plays, with it sounding like a track from Doom. Not only does the heavy guitar riff stay, the drums aren't from the Amen break, and all sorts of different synths blast through, making it really sound like an authentic arcade game from the 90s. This game has a ton to offer, and I definitely get why a lot of you recommended me to review this game's OST, and I too recommend you to give it a listen. Another heavily suggested indie game soundtrack is Oneshot, and I completely get why after listening to the entire soundtrack, which is filled with ambient-driven lo-fi tracks, which as always correspond to its respective scenes pretty well. Speaking of which, Oneshot is an RPG game where you play as guide the main protagonist Nico as they try to save the strange dystopian world they suddenly got themselves into, and you will then return them back home. Not only is the world of the game strange, but the entire game is strange. A being known as the Entity will try to communicate to the player through modifying your computer desktop background or sending error messages and through other ways to break the fourth wall. And, as the title of the game suggests, you literally only have one shot to guide Nico to save the world, because if you do fail or quit suddenly, you are greeted with a message saying that Nico has died. Seems straightforward enough. Okay, just in general, the soundtrack of the entire game is just... yeah, I really have no specific scene to really talk about without spoiling not only the plot, but the enjoyment and fun one would get from experiencing this game directly, but some notable tracks that are worth mentioning in my opinion are Self-Contained Universe Reprise, On Little Cat Feet, Library Stroll, and... you know what, I give up on listing all the notable tracks. Just go play the game or just listen to the soundtrack yourself first rather than listening to me praising how great they are or whatever, because they have a calm yet emotional edge to it, which you would only get by listening to it directly. Alright, we still have a few games left to talk about, but to not waste your time and to not make this video a part 2, let's just mention 3 notable soundtracks that either were suggested or I highly recommend listening to. Rain World, the very fun slug cat game that has a stellar soundtrack to accompany the player during different stages of the game. Celeste, a pretty cool platformer game with an equally fun soundtrack. Spiritfarer, an emotional roller coaster of a game with a gorgeous soundtrack, as Zacho put it, to bawl your eyes out. And more indie game soundtracks that are without a doubt superb listens with their own respective uniqueness, which has a narrative that continues to my previous point that composers for independently run projects like these are full of hidden talent. Okay, I think we're done. Oh, you have to be. I know. Oh look, this guy won't stop milking the edgy robot indie show because his last video was carried by the section where he talked about it. I'm not milking it, okay? I'll only talk about Murder Drones one last time before the entire finale of the first season is released, which means I won't talk about it until later this year. So, in this video, I skipped over most of episode 4 saying that it doesn't have any notable soundtracks, to which I regret saying. Most people are telling me left and right that I completely missed 2 fan favorite tracks of the entire Murder Drone soundtrack, 98.7 and Solver Uzi. And you know what? I accidentally slept on those, especially the latter. Solver Uzi is a refined take on the main theme, with it showing how the soundtrack matured with the show itself, with a heavy emphasis on tension by using a crap ton of synths, to which now I understand why this track is many people's favorite. And with that, I hope that I had pleased the majority of the fandom that stumbled upon my previous video, and to kindly stop commenting over and over again that I have missed those 2 soundtracks. And so there it is, the follow-up. Just so you know, the previous video and this one isn't something that I typically make for my YouTube channel, yet it did perform really well. Moving forward, I won't be solely making video essays about soundtracks, shows, and games all the time because that's just boring, and I have a lot of stuff that I want to talk about and other types of videos that I want to create and share with you all. With that being said, that's where I'll end the video for now. Thank you all for 1,000 subscribers and for all the support, and I will see you very, very soon. Hey everyone, Syafieq from a day before the release of this video here. I'd just like to say thank you for your patience in waiting for this video to come out, and I do sincerely apologize that it took this long. The next video won't take as long, however, and I will really try to upload it sometime around my birthday, which is next month, so stay tuned for it. And for you who are expecting the next video to be about indie soundtracks again, no, it is not. It is not really related to anything I've talked about previously, but I promise you that it will be an interesting watch. Anyways, see y'all on the flip side, and go watch the hidden art of indie soundtracks here.